Welcome to Sports Management Podcast, where you will hear interesting sports management professionals share their stories, experiences, and passion for the sports management industry. I am your host, Marcus Philipson. Today's guest is James Cutting, the founder of Football Fun Factory, where he is building the world's leading children's football coaching organization. James founded FFF in 2017 and started franchising in 2019. The business model is truly inspiring and very important. Considering that only 0.012% of kids in the UK make it to the Premier League, that only highlights the importance of having fun while playing. After our interview, Football Fun Factory was also awarded Best Business Serving Football by the Football Business Awards, so a huge congratulations on that. In this episode, you will learn why FFF chose to franchise their business, how a positive mindset can help you in the business of sport, and what the future holds for Football Fun Factory, and much, much more. Now, here is James Cutting. James Cutting, welcome to the Sports Management Podcast.
Thanks for having me. Brilliant to be here, Marcus.
I'm very happy to talk to you, and you are the founder of Football Fun Factory.
Yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, of course. So we are a children's football coaching organisation based in the UK. Our aim is very, very simple: to make football fun for everyone. So obviously, there's loads that goes on within children's football coaching, and our ethos is to do exactly that: to make fun experiences for children and to take the pressure out of the game, to focus less on football development and more on child development.
How is that nowadays with all this elite kind of mindset that specialization starts so early and there's a lot of pressure on kids early to perform? So I guess maybe that's what Football Fun Factory came out of.
Yeah, I think so. I think there's, in terms of what's available really, in terms of for every child, for every parent, opportunities within youth football, it's flooded with academies, elite programs, private coaching companies, all those kind of things. And what we're aiming to do really is just offer something different, something more casual, more relaxed, more accessible as well, because quite often those types of programs often mean having to have a certain level of talent to be able to participate within them. So we're trying to make football communities across the UK at the moment and make sure that our programs and experiences are available and accessible to everyone.
That's fantastic. And I read statistics that I think it was on your website, that kids who make it, in quotes, hence making it to the Premier League, is 0.012%.
Yeah.
And then you realize how important it is to catch the other kids to play as long as possible. And so talk a little bit about that and also about the business.
Yeah, so the stat is 0.012% of all children that play football in our country go on to become a Premier League professional. And whilst that's absolutely not us saying that you shouldn't try or you should give up hope or that you shouldn't strive for those kind of goals, because actually trying to pursue goals of becoming a professional is incredibly inspirational. I think we all run around as a child pretending to be a certain player in the back garden or have role models and people we looked up to. But actually the chances are incredibly slim, and in terms of the realistic goal being achieved, the chances are that it won't be. And I think that our ethos really is about, if that's all we strive for at the detriment of enjoyment and having fun and making friends and developing social skills, then actually we're missing out on all of those opportunities by just focusing on trying to become a professional footballer. So it's making sure that people enjoy the process, no matter what their talent level, no matter what their experience in the game, and no matter what they're striving for.
Yeah, the vision is that football should be fun and to love the game. But how does it look on a day-to-day basis?
So in terms of what we offer at Football Fun Factory, we're set up as a franchise. So essentially, we have 50 franchisees now across the UK, across England, Scotland, Wales, and soon to be Ireland too. And what each of those head coaches do most businesses effectively call their franchisees, people that run the business in the local area. We actually don't really tend to use that term too much, although they are. We use the term head coach because every head coach is the owner operator of their own franchise. They lead on the experiences, and that means weekly training sessions in the evenings. We have a TOTS program that runs on typically weekend mornings. We do school holiday programs, camps in the holidays, birthday parties, events. So that's what it looks like on a weekly basis for all these head coaches. But they also run, own, and operate their own business where they're doing all of the promotion, all of the marketing activities, all of the administration for their business. And what that actually gives them is a really successful business model. But what it gives parents and the children attending those programs is the opportunity to have a coach that's really, really accessible. So they're not just accessible on the football pitch. They're also accessible in other ways. They show up on social media. They answer an email. They're on tap, really. And that's incredibly powerful. And I think that's where quite often football programs can go wrong for children. So there's this inspirational role model football coach on the pitch, but you only get access to that person for 1 hour a week. And other than that, you don't see them again until the next Wednesday at 6 o'clock or whenever it might be. So yeah, that's what a week looks like, I guess, for a head coach.
Is that the biggest difference, you would say, versus if you play in just a local team?
Yeah, I think so. Lots of the children that come along to Football Fun Factory actually play for a local grassroots team as well. And there's, I would say, 50% of the children, their participation in football is just with Football Fun Factory, and the rest of them that then participate with the grassroots club, and it's almost a bolt-on to what they do in additional football because they love the game so much. There's also a small amount of children that are taking part in elite programs with professional football clubs, but then also come along to Football Fun Factory just for some fun and enjoyment and additional sort of ball rolling time, if you like. I guess, yeah, where we sit is kind of in a bit of a niche marketplace where you've got the professional football club environment, you've got elite pathways and programs. You've then got grassroots football, and we kind of sit in the middle where it's just an opportunity to come along, enjoy yourself, have fun, but it's equally as suitable for a really talented player to a 5-year-old girl that's never kicked a ball before. And I think that's what's quite appealing to parents, really, in terms of looking at all the different opportunities for their child. Football Fun Factory lands well for everyone.
Looking at the business standpoint, you mentioned that you started franchising. So you started Football Fun Factory in 2017, and then you started franchising in 2019, if I'm correct. Why did you come to that decision that you wanted to franchise?
Good question. So if you take it right back to the start, so I set up a 1-hour coaching session on the AstroTurf in the village where I live with no real intention of creating a business other than the fact that I enjoy football coaching. It was something I've been involved in my whole career. I stepped away from it, felt a bit of a void and missed it. So I started a 1-hour coaching session. That session was full straight away. I put on another session that was full straight away. There was a bit of a trend here where it was going well, mainly, I guess, because of one, my sort of understanding of the what parents want. And then two, my experience then in running effectively football coaching businesses within a professional football club environment as well, income generating programs for football. I then did that for a couple of years, turned that into my full-time career, replaced my salary, my job that I was in, left that job, went full-time into running Football Fun Factory community, as we now call them. And along that journey, there were so many people that said to me, you should franchise this. And I think that when the first person said that to me, I had no idea what franchising was. When the second person said that to me, I was a bit more intrigued. And when the 50th person said to me, you need to franchise this, I thought, okay, maybe I need to start listening to these people because a lot of people are telling me the same thing. And I think one of the biggest reasons why people say you should franchise Football Fun Factory is because of the unique aspect of what we do in the school holidays and with parties and events, which is our football inflatables. So whilst we do offer quite traditional football coaching on an AstroTurf in an indoor sports hall, we also have a range of different experiences where we use an inflatable football pitch, a football dartboard with giant footballs that stick to it, a cross between a goal and a bouncy cast, an inflatable goal that people dive around on. And because we have that really unique offering that really no one else in this country is really offering in terms of bringing all those experiences together. Loads of people coming to me saying, like, this is completely different to anything that's out there. You need to go and roll this out. At that point, I then connected with a former colleague of mine from my time at Cambridge United Football Club. I worked with a guy called Johnny Martin. And then at that stage, we then dreamt up a bit of a master plan to create a franchise model that we could roll out across the UK. And that was in 2019. So 2 years after I established it for myself.
2019 and 2020, start of the pandemic. So how did that affect the business and the Football Fun Factory?
Yeah, so the best thing and the worst thing that could have happened to us. So worst thing, well, just the worst thing in the world, wasn't it, for everyone and everything? I know that for you guys over there, you handled it slightly differently to how we did in the UK, and it was with the absence of lockdowns and things like that. But for us, what it meant was we were just establishing our franchise. So what we'd actually done, the plan was for Johnny to come in and to pilot a franchise. I'd made a success of it in Red Lodge in Suffolk, where I was living. And then Johnny came into another part of the UK in Essex and rolled out a franchise there. The plan was he was going to do that for a 12-month period. But within 3 weeks, we had 5 franchisees. So actually what happened at that time, the football network served us really well. We knew loads of local, really talented football coaches. And Johnny and I coming together at that time caught a bit of attention, turned a few heads, and there were people approaching us saying, how can I get involved in this? So very quickly, 3 or 4 more people came on board, and that was sort of tail end of 2019 heading into 2020. Of course, then in March 2020 for us, everything came to a halt. That meant all of our programs being on pause. We had 5 franchisees at that moment in time. All of our programs were on pause. We had to stop doing everything we were doing. From a business perspective, all the revenue stopped in the blink of an eye. And for a 3 to 4 month period, that was it. At that time, most people would probably look at our business and our model and say, okay, that's the end of that then. But actually, it ended up being the best thing that could, in hindsight, looking back, retrospectively, is the best thing that could have happened to us, because what we did at that time was what every franchise needs to do, which is to put in place a scalable model that you can roll out. Mm-hmm. And we had March, April, May, June 2020 to write all of the documentation, all of the training, all of the how-to guides that we now have in place, so that when we opened up again and we could get this business rolling again and get kids playing football again, then actually we could scale up quickly. And that's exactly what happened. So in September 2020, we then more than doubled in size. We went to 12 head coaches. We then had a few more bumps in the road with lockdowns again and all those things that we've now come out of. But as we stand here today in May, we've now got 50 franchisees across the UK. So, and a lot of that success can be attributed to that lockdown period where we just, for 3 months, got our head down, earned no money, did a lot of work, worked really, really long hours, and we're able to put in place really the foundations for what Football Fun Factory is today.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I mean, many people might have, that's it, as you said, like give up and see there are no revenues, but you took those 3-4 months, made that plan for the future, and now it serves you well. So talking about making the best out of a bad situation, right?
Yeah, I think we, at Football Fun Factory, we have 13 different statements that we call them I am FFF because, and then we finish the sentence. And the most powerful of those, I think, is I'm FFF because I'll turn every challenge into an opportunity. So the challenge that we faced was probably, hopefully, the biggest challenge that we'll ever face.
Yeah.
And the thought process is that if we can overcome this challenge, then there's no stopping us. And we overcome that challenge. And not only did we overcome it, we turned that challenge into a huge opportunity to be a springboard for the future success of the FFF. So yeah, absolutely. Looking back, at the time it didn't feel like it. Trust me, at the time it felt like we were really up against it and we were trying to run uphill. But looking back, we did some great work at that time, and we're now seeing the benefit of all the sort of hard work and endeavour that we put in at that time.
Yeah, I'm happy to hear it. You mentioned previously that you have some work experience also from Cambridge United Football Club. So what were the key learnings that you brought from there and that you are now implementing into FFF?
Great question. So working at a professional football club, at the time they were in, when I first joined, they were in the National League, which just sits outside of the professional, still professional, but the fourth tier, if you like, of English football. They then got promoted to League Two. In our time, we played Man United in the FA Cup and got a famous draw, went back to Old Trafford. So really, really exciting times there. I was there for very close to 10 years. And in that time, took on a number of different roles, from a casual coach right up to youth development manager. And in that time, learned some really valuable, not only business lessons, but life lessons. And like in terms of career opportunity and career development, there were so many opportunities in so many different job roles that I undertook at that time to just learn by doing rather than being taught. And I was just thrown in the deep end consistently and continually. There were opportunities for me to take on huge responsibilities at a very young age. By 21 years old, I was taking groups of 200 people away on tour across Europe, and I was running a development centre program that had 1,000 children participating within a 50-mile radius of Cambridge, huge program. And doing those things firstly opened my eyes to what an opportunity there is to create brilliant football experiences for children and families. It probably also opened my eyes to the fact that what a shame it was that we were having to say no to so many children as well. So at that time, it was great that we were offering opportunities and families and children were relishing it. But actually, we were quite often saying, no, sorry, you don't have the talent level to be able to access this program or this opportunity. And that always, I struggled to come to terms with that, really. And that's why for the birth of the Football Fun Factory, what we've been able to do is create all of the same opportunities, but to make them open and accessible to everyone. So I think, in my time at Cambridge United, I learned so much from a personal development perspective, from a coaching perspective as a football coach, but working around some really talented football coaches, from a business development perspective as well. And I've taken all of those learnings and taken them forward to create the FFF, I guess.
This episode is sponsored by InSport Education, the online business school for sport. Right now, they are offering course recordings on demand for only £199. Private equity in sport, sustainability in sport, or governance in women's sport, take your pick. As always, you get 10% off all courses with the code SPORTSMANAGEMENTPODCAST10. Click the link in the description below to see the complete course list. You started FFF in 2017, started franchising in 2019. You took all of your experiences from your previous roles into this. You had the obstacle with COVID. Now, when we are closing up to the mid-year of 2022, what is the plan going forward? Is there any plans to franchise outside of the UK? What's coming up?
Yeah, so we have had loads of interest in international franchise opportunities. We've had a number of conversations with people across Europe and further afield. Whilst we're really massively driven and we want to roll out Football Fun Factory worldwide, 100%. That's our aim. In fact, our overall aim is to become the world's leading children's football coaching organisation, which is a huge ambition. And we say that with no ego or arrogance, just an absolute appetite and desire to put positive football experiences on the doorsteps of children across the world. We're doing that across the UK at the moment. And we feel that we'll be really best placed to do that across the world once we've really established kind of market dominance in the UK, if that makes sense. So at the moment, we're well placed. We're a growing organization. We've got 50 franchisees, but we're not actually the market leader today in the UK. And I think that we need to achieve that before we can roll out internationally, just because we're still, whilst the model that we've got in place is working well and it's growing and everything's good, we're continuing to refine that model. And the more we refine it in the UK, of course, it will be different, and there'll be cultural and regional differences for people overseas. But once we've got that really established and really defined, it will mean that when we launch in Sweden and when we launch in France and Belgium and Italy and maybe the United States and other places, then actually we'll be able to do that with a really solid foundation and strong recommendations of what to do and how to be successful really quickly. So we're really excited about international franchising. We just need to get the timing right. However, having said that, we still encourage people to come forward and talk to us about those things. In fact, we're in active dialogue with a number of people about that, because these things take time. You can't just say, okay, we want to start this in France and next week off we go. It's a long process and one that needs a lot of planning and a lot of preparation. So we're in active conversations. We're ready to roll that out. And in the meantime, we're trying to really become the go-to football provider for children in the United Kingdom.
I understand that mindset. The plans, as you said, of course, is global, worldwide, but I guess it's easier to start in the strong football nations, maybe in Europe, like Spain and Germany. Is that somewhere where you might start?
Yeah, I think so. I think first and foremost, there's a couple of considerations. There's one, European countries are more or closer aligned to how the model which we operate in the UK. So to take our UK model and put it into France probably doesn't mean a huge amount of change, or to put it into Spain probably doesn't mean a huge amount of change. And that feels quite comfortable. To take the UK model into India or China then probably means some quite stark changes in terms of the opportunities that we offer and how we get to the point we want to get to, which is to offer children fantastic football experiences. For example, in India, it could be that private schools is the way in which we roll out the Football Fun Factory, whereas actually in the UK, we don't do anything within schools at all. So yes, European countries, definitely. And I think the other thing is just English-speaking countries, because of course there's a real challenge around the language barrier and the way in which you roll things out when the delivery, from a delivery perspective, has to come from somebody of that native tongue, if you like, and there's that challenge as well. So yeah, I think any English-speaking country and any European country where football is life, there's in England, football is life. When England do well, which has not been all that often over the years, but actually we're doing okay at the moment. And when we've got a good national team and there's a big game, if we do well in the World Cup, I know that the whole country will stop and watch England play. And any country that's got that level of passion is a country that the Football Fun Factory is keen to be a part of.
Yeah, that makes sense. Is there any difficulties with terms of Brexit, do you think, to go outside the UK? Is that something you need to consider as well?
We haven't encountered any in terms of our planning so far. Of course, there will be some considerations in terms of how that all lands. I think that's also a changing landscape. So what's in place today, by the time we launch in another country, there could be some other considerations. Obviously, the equipment that we use being shipped and things like that is a consideration too, but nothing that's a limiting factor, nothing that rules out a country and to say, actually, because of Brexit, we can't operate in Germany. There's nothing that's so big that it's going to affect our ability to do that. So yeah, I'm sure there'll be some challenges and obstacles and hurdles along the way, but as we said, every challenge is an opportunity, so we'll face it head on.
Exactly, there it goes again. That's why you're an FFF.
That's it.
I also read recently that you made a deal with Center Parcs.
Correct.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So, and actually, it links quite well into your previous question about other countries. So, in the UK, centre parks are kind of the go-to place really for UK holidays. They have villages across the country, fantastic family holidays. There's 6 different sites across the UK and Ireland. And recently, when our director Luke Chadwick went to one, he sort of looked at the facilities and he looked at the demographics of people that are on site. Lots of families, lots of young children, and he thought the football fun factory should be here. So we've got this thing where when we see an opportunity, we really go after it. We've been in dialogue with them for a long time. We've been building a model for a long time. We've now formed a partnership, and we are now the football provider for centre parks across the UK and Ireland. So that means that we're established at those places. There's 1.8 million people a year that go to centre parks in the UK. So for us, it's a huge brand building exercise, as well as a brilliant sort of business partnership as well. And it means that there's for an establishing and growing brand, which is what we are, it's an opportunity for our brand to be seen on a daily basis by thousands of people. So we're really excited about it. What's also exciting, Marcus, is that there's centre parks in Germany and Holland and Belgium and France, and where we have aspirations to grow into those countries. Actually, bit of a spoiler, but that's kind of our next step. You know, can we, once we've successfully rolled that out in the UK, can we go knocking on the door to those guys and say, look, this is working well in the UK. There's no reason why it can't be exactly the same in Germany and wherever else too.
Yeah, that's a good, sounds like a good partnership. And what you said also might be very beneficial when you try to roll out the franchise abroad as well.
Yeah, I think so. It's something we're really excited about. Like we said, we're just establishing the UK partnership at this moment in time, so we haven't even spoken about that yet. But if they happen to watch the podcast, they'll know that a phone call's coming.
Yeah. You also mentioned Luke. He's obviously a former professional football player. So what's his role in the company and what is he contributing with?
Yeah, so Luke was our 3rd franchisee. So when Johnny joined, he piloted a franchise and became the partner in the franchising company effectively. We then had a guy called Kyle that came on board as a coach that we worked with at Cambridge United. And then Luke joined. And at the point where Luke joined, that created real pandemonium really in the local area, because not only had Johnny and I joined forces, and lots of people locally within the sort of Cambridge area knew us in a sort of football environment. We were sort of well-known football coaches. We then just had Luke Chadwick join, who was used to play for Manchester United. So then straight away, people were going, okay, what's going on here then? We've got these 2 guys that have, you know, well-known locally, and then we've got a former Premier League player that's joined forces with them. He said at the outset, "I'll come on board, guys." He was leaving his role. He was youth development phase lead within the academy at Cambridge United. He'd had a really good career, played for Man United, West Ham, Reading, Stoke, Norwich City, some really big clubs, and the biggest club in the world at that time, Man United. And he finished his career at Cambridge United, which was his boyhood club. He wanted to finish at Cambridge United. It's the club that he loved. And that's where we encountered Luke. In fact, Johnny and I gave him his first ever role in football coaching after his career came to an end. And because of that, we developed a really good relationship. And we didn't actually approach him. He was leaving his role at Cambridge. He had a discussion with us. In fact, we did a podcast with him, funny enough.
Yeah.
And we had a bit of a sit-down chat with Luke. And after the camera stopped rolling, he said to us, well, can I get involved, guys? And at that stage, we said we'd absolutely love you to. And his role now is to recruit new head coaches. So he speaks on a daily basis on Zoom calls with potential new head coaches. And he helps us find the best possible people to join the team.
That's fantastic. Considering your role and as the founder, And now with all the different franchises, if we're talking about leadership, that's usually a topic on this podcast. And I mean, you're having all these franchisees, you are managing, I guess, adults, but also it's a lot of kids. That is part of your business plan. So how are you handling this and your leadership style?
Yeah, I think to be part of such a fast-paced, forward-thinking organization, it's been tough and challenging. And I won't shy away from that. The pandemic threw a huge curveball in terms of leadership. I've had to be a strong leader because I've had to, we had a group of 5 franchisees at that moment in time who probably all thought this was something to just walk away from and say, okay, unlucky, it's not gone to plan. So I had to try and motivate and inspire people at that time and cast a vision and talk about the future, because the present was so bleak that we had to talk about the future. So I've had to try and inspire, and we always ask exactly the same as we ask our head coaches to inspire and engage children. It's my job to inspire and engage our team of staff and everyone that's involved with Football Fun Factory and all of the head coaches and franchisees. So yeah, we try and communicate really effectively to give people all the information, to set them up for success, and to motivate, inspire, and engage them at every opportunity.
I like that. I can sense the positive mindset in general. What we talked about before, every challenge is an opportunity. And I mean, that obviously comes in handy within the business as well. Usually I ask if there's been any bump on the road in your career. We have touched upon it a few times here, but is there anything else except for COVID that you would mention that has been a bump on the road in your career?
On a personal level, it was just leaving a job in football. So I worked, like I said, at Cambridge United. I then left that job and I took a job completely outside of football. I've been there 10 years. I've been in various roles. The reason I left was just because there was no real next step for me. I'd sort of got to the where I wanted to get to. Didn't really want to take the next step into the next job role. Turned into more of a commercial position than a children's football coaching position, if you like, or leading on football programs, and it became really commercial. So I left football altogether. I took a role completely outside of football as a consultant, and the biggest challenge for me at that point in time was I just really, really missed it. And I guess, again, turning the challenge into an opportunity, that bump in the road then gave me the inspiration to then go and start the Football Fun Factory. So again, difficult time, challenging time, a time where I had to really reflect and reconsider what I was doing, but also turn that into an opportunity because it's put in place what we've got in place today. So yeah, I guess that was the biggest bump in the road for me, but also one that was welcome on reflection.
Yeah. Again, turning something negative into a positive.
Every single time, Marcus. You can see the trend.
Yeah, for sure. I do. Approaching the end here, is there something that I haven't asked you yet that you feel is important to mention?
I think just to mention about the industry of football coaching and professional clubs, really. One of the things that we try to do is kind of fix what is, in my eyes, in my view, a broken industry. So in the UK, I can't comment on other countries, but in the UK, there's a lot of football coaches working within professional football club environment, striving for the next job, in a culture that's kind of everyone fights it out to get to the next job opportunity. And so there's not the best culture. The pay is low and the hours are long and the demands are high. And what we try to do through the franchise opportunity is create the chance for passionate football coaches to kind of step away from the low-paid, long hours, not very poor work-life balance, kind of environment, and step into this new opportunity with Football Fun Factory. And it might not hold the prestige of being at a professional football club, but actually it does hold the prestige of running and owning your own business. And in doing so, we're really passionate about work-life balance. We're really passionate about breaking the mold and kind of, like I said, fixing a broken industry. So I think that's the biggest thing I'd like to get across, that just because that's the way it is within professional football doesn't mean that's the way it has to be. And that's kind of one of the biggest reasons why we put in place the franchise model that we have too.
Yeah. I read recently like the worst thing you can have in a business is when you say that it's always been like this. It's always been this way. That's toxic. So I like that.
I agree.
If you could choose the next guest on this podcast, who do you think that I should talk to?
I think you should talk to Luke Chadwick, who's our director, because whilst it might be, I might say, the odd interesting thing about the growth of the organisation, actually, he's played with David Beckham, Ryan Giggs, Paul Scholes, Roy Keane, to name a few. He grew up with the class of 92 at Manchester United. He's got a Premier League winners medal. So from a playing perspective, he's got some really interesting stuff to say. It's also really interesting to hear from someone that's played at the highest level who still feels that the most important thing about playing football is having fun. Because whereas most people are striving to be a professional footballer, whereas someone who's actually gone on and does that says that, you know what, there's no point if you don't enjoy it. So I think it'd be really interesting to hear from him, and maybe I can help set that up for you as well.
Definitely. That sounds like a good guest. Let's talk about that afterwards. James Cutting, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the Sports Management Podcast and inspiring us with your positive energy, and to let us know that all challenges, we can turn them into opportunities.
Thanks, Marcus. Great to be on. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Sports Management Podcast. Please hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on any upcoming episodes. Also, feel free to leave a comment about what you thought about this episode. If you want to get in contact with me, send an email to sportsmpodcast@gmail.com or hit me up on Twitter or Instagram @sportsmpodcast.